Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Here's our tournament preview for the ICC Women's 50 Over World Cup, which has been held in India in Sri Lanka, which starts on the 30th of September, ended with the final on 2nd November. So we'll talk about England's squad selection, their chances in the competition, chat about a couple of the other teams, and finish with our semi-finalists and winner predictions. Subscribe if you're new. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. It'd be great to read those. So I'm with Frochy today. Frochy, thanks a lot for joining, mate. So a lot to get through. Let's start with England. Obviously, the team we want to go on and win, whether they will or not, we'll obviously find out in the next few weeks. But obviously, what do you make of the squad selection for England? Because obviously, Kate Cross was left out about a month ago, but revealed today on her No Balls podcast with obviously Alex Hartley that on the eve of the Women's 100 in August, England's central contract would not be renewed. So obviously, that's why she's not in the squad. So what do you make of that decision? And obviously, England's heavy reliance on spin, obviously, because it's been held in India and Sri Lanka.
I think the squad selection was mishandled from the start because we announced it so early when the 100 still hadn't completed. With the 100 not completing, uh, there was always going to be a chance that some people shone, and their omission from the squad might be highlighted. There is always the talk of the poor performances that we had beforehand, and the need for change and the need for fresh blood and stuff like that. And not only that, the one-day competition that was running for the women's teams only concluded last week. So it being a one-day cup, I think they could have waited certainly until the 100 finished just to give them a bit of a chance, because they must have known that when they announced the squad, they would have got some people pointing out the fact that Cross is missing, that ADR is missing, that Boucher's out. They would have also said there are people in the squad that didn't perform in the last India series, they didn't perform in the last World Cup, they didn't perform in the last Ashes, yet they're all back in the squad. I know there's been suggestion from people much more knowledgeable and much better at cricket than I in the professional game that would have suggested that this is possibly the only team that Charlotte could have picked because she's only been in the job 5 minutes. But at the same time, all the talk going into it and the selection was we're going to support Nat Brunt. She's had a high workload. She's coming off of obviously welcoming her new child into the world. We'll take the pressure off of her hands. We'll do the selection for her. But then 5 minutes after the selection goes out and Lydia Greenway's questioned about it by Mark Butcher, she then goes and says, "Oh yeah, well we have to really go by what Nat wants," and sort of throwing her under the bus and saying, "Oh, this is her team. Really, we didn't actually have a lot of input." That's how people have read it anyway. So yeah, from the off, I think you had that problem. So just talking about the team, you've got Nat Brunt, Emily Arlott, Tammy Beaumont, Lauren Bell, Alice Capsey, Charlie Dean, Sophia Dunkley, Sophie Eccleston, Lauren Filer, Sarah Glenn, Amy Jones, Heather Knight, Emma Lamb, Lindsay Smith, and Danny White Hodge. Of those, I can see an argument for including 14 of them because I think that they've done enough over the past year, 2 years to say that they warrant their space in the team. The one thing I would say is that this team is really, really batting light, and there is a long tail potentially in every game because unless they literally pick all eight of their batters, sorry, not batsmen, um, we will be batting from we will be batting down to about six, and that is a hell of a long tail. I know that they put Arla in, and
Especially,
there's
sorry to interrupt, but especially with 50 over cricket, you could probably get away with that in a
yeah,
T20, but in the longer
yeah.
format, I
And
think
that's the
it could get
problem is I
exposed.
think a lot of these have performed really well recently in T20 and the 100 format,
Yeah.
but that's an extra 180 deliveries to
What,
200
and
deliveries.
this is what the men have the problem with Frochy as well. Like someone like Phil Salt is excelling
Yeah,
at the top of the order in T20 cricket. In 50 over cricket, he
yeah,
can't do it. He'll bat the same
no,
way, but
yeah.
obviously it's a longer form of cricket,
Yeah.
eh?
I think like for me, you've got what have I got here? Just in my 11, there are 8 nailed on places that will not move. And there's only 3 positions. Now, the big talk about this was that they wanted to go with extra spin, which I can appreciate because it's it's the Southern Hemisphere. But I think it's a bit of a misnomer. We've seen in the Women's Super League and in just general competitions that are held in India and the subcontinent, pitches are not like they were in the 70s and 80s, where they're definitely going to be turning square. Sometimes they put flat pitches down and they let the batting do the talking, and they have all that kind of expertise in it. So I don't know whether or not it's going to be the right choice. But even if it was, and even if you wanted to put more spin into the side, I would rather have batters that can turn the ball over and give support, and you can find potentially 3 of the batters that can then bowl 10 overs between the 3 of them, than have 4 spinners, out and out spinners. You could say Dean can hold a bat, and she's been very good at backing up, especially in the longer format where she can get herself in. She's obviously future captain. She's earmarked by England in that kind of role. I can't see her not playing a part. And then obviously Eccleston plays a part. If you're going to bring in a third spinner, specialist spinner, Lindsay Smith or Sarah Glenn, Lindsay Smith has had just an unbelievable 2 years.
Yeah, she's been
And in
awesome.
my
Yeah.
personal opinion, would come in ahead of Dean, but won't because of the whole setup and the whole interest on that. But so Lindsay Smith will be the thing. I can't see Sarah Glenn playing a meaningful game in that World Cup. She may play in the Bangladesh game or the Pakistan game, but I cannot see her. I can't see them turning up to the ground and going, we need all 4 spinners, because she will definitely be the 4th pick. She also doesn't bat, and she also doesn't field particularly well. And there's a massive focus on the fielding. There will be for the whole of the World Cup because of how poor we were in the Ashes, how poor we were in the World Cup before that. So I feel going through the team, she is the one for me that was picked to bolster the spinners. But when we've got Capsey, who's been much more of a bowler than a batter recently, because her batting hasn't been brilliant, especially at international level. But she's been bowling really well in both franchise cricket and international cricket. You've also got Emma Lamb, who can bowl spin. I'm just worried that we've gone a bit light with the batting, and therefore I'd probably play the majority of those batters in the games. I don't know what your thoughts are, but for me, I'll just give you a rundown of what my team would look like. You've got Beaumont and Jones opening because they have been phenomenal opening together in this
Yeah,
last 6
absolutely. Yeah,
months.
yeah.
Emma Lamb at 3, Heather Knight at 4, although she hasn't picked up a bat in 6 months. Natsiva Brunt at 5, and Knight and Brunt are interchangeable. If the top 3 get us through 30 overs, Brunt, I think, leapfrogs Knight because she's more destructive, and also you want her batting more of the overs, but you don't want her batting 40 overs, especially with her bowling workload, which she's going to need to bowl because of the what we picked. Then Dunkley at 6, and then 7 is the absolute wild card. And then I've got at 8, depending on whether you're going for a spin or on who you picked at 7. I've got Dean or Arlott. Eccleston's 9, and then it's Arlott, Filer, or Smith at 10, and then Bell 11. 7 it could literally be anyone between Capsey, Wyatt Hodge, Arlott, Smith, and Dean. I would pick Capsey because you've got overs there and it lengthens the batting lineup. And then Dean in at 8 or Arlott in at 8, that makes it a bit more of a balanced team. There's a bit of a misnomer about Eccleston, facing balls. She's a great destructive player, but I can't ever remember her batting more than 5 overs in
Yeah,
any match
yeah,
for the
yeah,
England team.
yeah.
So yeah, that's how I saw it. I think Kate Cross being left out, she hasn't really done anything wrong, and I don't think anyone's overtaken her. I think it's been a bit of a misread from England to pick 4 out and out spinners especially when you've got Dean's a brilliant fielder, Lindsay Smith's a brilliant fielder. They can both hold a bat. Sarah Glenn, not so much. She's an out and out. And if we've already got two massive number 11s already, Bell, God bless her, she is an outstanding bowler and she will be the number 11 every time because I think she'll play every game because she's phenomenal with the ball. And I don't mind that because I've had a bit of a bone to pick with England for a while now, the women's team, in that they have tried to make everyone an all rounder. So I'm really glad that Lauren
Yeah,
Bell
yeah.
is a specialist bowler, but she's definitely a number 11, and so is Lauren Filer. So, that again, the tail can be a bit fragile, which is why I'd like to have some more people in there. Um, but yeah, just on Kate Cross, for 50 overs matches, I've got the stats. So in her last, what have we got? In her last 18 months, she's gone. So not all right. So in the last 12 months, she's gone 2 for 46, 6 for 30, 3 for 8, and then 3 games against. Also, 2 games against South Africa. The second one of which is when she done her back, so she was out for that one. So that was 0 for 18, bowling 3 overs, and then 0 for 5 where she couldn't complete the first over. And then in the West Indies series, 1 for 57, 1 for 33, 1 for 15. That doesn't scream to me like, oh, she needs to be replaced. But I do understand if the England team were picking between her and Emily Arlott. Emily Arlott's had a great summer with the ball. She
Yeah.
came in when Kate Cross got injured. She's grabbed the opportunity with both hands. I've not got a problem with that. I think potentially that Kate Cross has really missed out because Sarah Glenn was picked based on this misnomer of having spinners. And Sarah Glenn has not played, or she's played 3 ODIs in the last 2 years. And she's gone 0 for 46, 1 for 21, 0 for 40. And one of those games is against the Pakistan women, which, without being disrespectful, you would expect someone of her quality or someone with the backing of an England, central contract and everything else to be doing better than that in a series like that. So that's my overall take on that. I think Kate Cross has missed out really because Selva Glenn's in the team. I can't argue that Arlott's in the team. I can't argue with Filer. She offers pace, obscene pace in the women's game, and Lauren Bell is hands and shoulders, head and shoulders above hands and feet. She's head and shoulders above the others. But yeah, my biggest worry is that our batting is a bit light, and if we're going to be using extra batters down the order, the ones we've got that have got spin. If you think about it, if you've got Bell, let's for argument's sake put spinners in. So if you've got Bell, Smith, Eccleston, Dean, 8, 9, 10, 11, that's 40 overs. And then if you've got Capsey, Emma Lamb, even Heather Knight, and that Siva Brunt, you've only got to find 10 overs out of them four. And you might find that, naturally, oh, well, we'll keep them on. They're actually doing well. We're not going for it many. We're eating up
Yeah,
overs here, and
exactly.
we're
Yeah.
not going for very many. And that's the other worry, obviously, is Nat Silver Brunt as captain. I don't think, my personal opinion, she's been a great captain. I think when you've played cricket at any level, when you're against an opposition where the captain is captaining by numbers, they've got it in their head that guy's going to bowl his 9 straight through. At the other end, they're going to bowl 6. Then I'm going to bring on a guy for his 9 straight through.
Oh yeah. You see, even in
Then I'm
village
going to,
cricket, mate, let alone
yeah,
international.
yeah. And I think Nat Bunt doesn't have a plan B. And when she does sort of come round to a plan B, it's too late. There's been plenty of opportunities or plenty of times when I've heard the commentary team saying, oh, I'd like to see Heather Brunt on, Sophie Eccleston back on now. We need to get a wicket. This is when we need to change the game. Or there's a new batsman at the batter at the crease. We need to try and change it up. We need to get our best bowlers on. And that Brunt's too late to change. And I don't know, it definitely doesn't impact her batting. Um, at all because she's been phenomenal ever since she stepped into a pair of an England kit. She's been phenomenal batting, but as a captain, I don't think. necessarily she's the right choice because I don't think she's quite as flexible. But yeah, long tail, a lot of batting, a little batting. I think those are going to be our problems. Um,
Oh, but
and
well, let's speak about those problems. So, I mean, obviously, this is it's a round robin stage in the World Cup. Top four go through. I think it's probably let's be kind to England. It's probably a bit beyond England to get to the final or let alone win it. So, would you say like a semi-final place would be a success because it's still a side in
I think
transition and
if they
heaven?
get to if they get to a semi final, um, I think it's a bit of a poison chalice this World Cup because if they don't make it to the semi final, that means a team of, and no disrespect to New Zealand, who are obviously the current T20 world champions. Um, their side hasn't changed a great deal since then, but they have aged a couple of years. And I think if Amelia Kerr and Sophie Devine both don't fire, then I think New Zealand are going to be in trouble. I don't think they've got a great deal of depth. And then between Bangladesh and Pakistan, I think Sri Lanka got a great deal of batting, not so much bowling. And I think Pakistan and Bangladesh, obviously, they don't have the resources of those other sides. So it's just based on the skill of the players that have come through their systems. I think that they're going to be the four that miss out, and England will probably be expected to still make the top four. But I cannot see them finishing above South Africa. And just 2 days ago in Delhi, uh, Australia and India faced each other and put on 780 runs. So you've got you've got to look at those two sides and think. And when I was doing this and I was putting my little team down for England and I was looking through the squads for the other teams, I couldn't pick an 11 for Australia because every time I picked an 11, I'm like, I can't leave her out and I've got to put her. So, but where am I going to fit her in? She doesn't go in there. They've
Yeah.
got the greatest young talent in Phoebe Litchfield. They've got so much depth in their bowling. They've got so much depth in their batting. And everyone seems to be an all rounder, apart from Alyssa Healy, who's going to be obviously batting and behind the stumps. Everyone else seems to be able to hold a ball and a bat.
Yeah, just
I
yeah,
just think
no,
they're
just
a
looking through
phenomenal
this. I
talent.
mean, you beat me to it. I was going to say let's talk about some of the squads, but yeah, you beat me to it. Yeah, some of the Australia. I mean, it's no wonder they're obviously the holders have run it 7 times of the ODI World
Yeah.
Cup, and their squad is just. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, yeah, you're totally right, Frochy. Who the fuck do you leave out?
I know when I saw some of the players that they did, well, like there wasn't a great deal of people that they left out, but there was a big furore over some of the players that didn't make the squad. But it's like, who would you drop them for? Because
Yeah,
that squad is you could that any you could pick any 11 of them of the 15 that they brought, and they are absolutely phenomenal talents.
they
And
could
we're
probably name us.
lucky,
Their second 11 could probably could finish in the
yeah.
top four.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I watch a lot of women's cricket. I love women's cricket, and when I've watched the WSL, when I've watched the Big Bash League, when you watch the Big Bash, and you see some of um, the Australia A players or the people that are just on the fringe. If Alyssa Healy wasn't captain and such a big name and have done so well in the past, I think you'd find that Nicola Fulton would be in that squad. In her heart, she is one of the best female wicket keepers I've seen since Sarah Taylor. And
Well,
for
that's
her
a
to
bit. That's a
miss
big
out,
compliment, mate.
she for her to miss out, I think it's just purely because obviously she's up against
Yeah, of
one
course,
of, if
makes
not
sense.
the best wicket keeper in the game currently. Um, but at the same time, you could argue that we've dropped the ball and missed a few players out ourselves in the same sort of mould. People that have been performing really well, and like I said, if they'd have waited till the end of the 100, you've got two players in there in Davina Perrin and Kira Chatley who have done phenomenally well, scoring against franchise international bowlers. I know they're young, I know they're inexperienced, but if you're talking about picking on form, you can't then go and pick Sarah Glenn, who's played only three one-day internationals in
Yeah.
the last 2 years. You've got to have if you're gonna talk the talk, you've got to walk the walk. I think a call that I might have made based on the whole discussion about fielding and issues that we've got around fielding is I would have potentially thought about the young or younger franchise players that are absolutely phenomenal fielders and brought them in and rotated your players off and had them sub fielding for some of the games. Rather than have Sarah Glenn, who I genuinely don't think is going to play a meaningful. I don't think she'll bowl a meaningful ball, and I think it's a wasted spot on that squad when you could have had someone younger in and around the scene,
Or another
such
batter,
as
as you suggested earlier.
yeah, yeah, such as Perrin or Chatterley
Mm.
or the people Bouchier. You know, it's only going to take one of those. You've got, Knight hasn't picked up a bat in 6 months. If she's still got a niggle when she starts playing in competitive games, all of a sudden we've then only got five batters plus Danny White Hodge and Alice Capsey, and it just seems really really fragile from my point of view. And then if you've got ADR and Boucher and stuff, the thing that amazed me is when they were talking about um, the squad being picked, and they said, well, maybe they picked Harlot because she offers a bit more with the bat. In the last 6 innings, she scored 70 runs in one day competitions. And again, no disrespect to the county game, but that's not franchise, that's not international level. So only 70 runs in 6 innings is not amazing. And Kate Cross got a 50 the other week. So, you know, it just didn't, nothing sat right with me when the whole thing was done. But you can see what they want to do. They do want to move forward, and I think this was one of those that they wish the World Cup was 12 months further down the line, because they've had to pick a team here, and they're not quite really sure of which youngsters are going to be part of the mould and which aren't. I think Rihanna Southby is another one who's missed out because Amy Jones is such a settled player. And if Amy Jones hadn't had the summer that she's had, or the year that she's had opening the batting with Tammy Beaumont, I think there would have been questions, because she doesn't really kick on and get runs in the middle order. And Rihanna Southby is as good a wicket keeper as um, as Amy Jones. So yeah, I think we're in trouble. And I did put out on Twitter before, just as the squad was saying, oh, we're announcing the squad this afternoon or this morning. I retweeted it and just put, I've got a bad feeling about this, and I just knew that they might just have a bit of a problem.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes, mate. Right, well, let's touch on. Obviously, we've touched on England and Australia, Frochy, and let's touch on. Let's go with the co-hosts, India. They're a team that are improving all the time. They're looking for their first ICC World Cup win. They did well against England in both ODIs and T20s in the summer. I think the scoreline flattered England. Scoreline's flattered England. I've got to say, I think India were
Yep,
very impressive, particularly Krensi Good. I'm going to say
yep,
she pressed in the ODIs against England with 9 wickets in the 3 matches.
yep.
So I mean, obviously they got to the 2017 final against England at Lords, come very close. I mean, you would think it's a matter of time before they get a first ICC World Cup win, and this year potentially could be their year, eh?
I again, I can't pick an 11 out of the India team. I think they've got. I was looking at. It's funny enough when I was looking at the squads. I was looking because obviously it's India's home World Cup, so they get reserves. And I was looking at their reserves and going, "Oh, blimey!" So even if you've got people like Thakur and Rana and Yadav, even if they fall by the wayside or get injured, or you lose people like Dial or Rodriguez, you've got Rawat and Mishra and Mani to come in, and I was just like, wow, yeah, they are, I think, another team that has just so much depth, and it just seems like the young players that have come through and are doing well are all rounders, which gives them such flexibility, because you can have Smitra Mandana, you can have Harmanpreet Kaur, you can have Jemima Rodriguez as specialist bats, um, and then still pad out your batting all the way down to 8 with all rounders. And then again, you've got people that are super experienced, like Ghosh and Sharma, Deepti Sharma. I mean, I don't, whenever we play India, I'm like, are we going to get out this time? She reminds me of, there's a couple of players over the years um, that have just seemed to have been a thorn in England's side. And I'm thinking like Shiv Chanderpaul and more recently Notcher from South Africa. We just don't seem to get them out, and then they seem to get loads and loads of runs, and it becomes a bit of a problem, especially when we're on top or we get ahead of the game. They'll get down to like 7 or 6, and then Deepti Sharma will come in, and then we just won't get her out. She's so destructive. All of a sudden, the game you think, oh, they need 8 and over, and you think, well, Deepti out there, 8 and over is nothing. So it's going to be really, really tough. And I think every team is going to find it tough to come up against them in their own backyard. I think they're really, really strong.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, let's touch on South Africa. They're semi-finalists in the ODI World Cup in 2022, 2017. They were T20 World Cup runners-up in 2024 and in 2023, where they beat England in the semi-finals. So, they've got well led by Laura Wolfart. They've got Marizanne Kapp, a few other match winners. Again, a team looking for their first World Cup win.
Yeah. I mean, if you take all of the teams, I think the three people, I think Australia, massively brilliant team. And I think Phoebe Litchfield is the standout player in that team. But South Africa have got arguably the best women's cricketer at the moment in Marizanne Kapp. I think she is massively underrated as a bat. And obviously, as a bowling all rounder, she is phenomenal. Opens the bowling. She's such a great presence. She's such a match winner. She reminds me of the bowlers and batters gone by that are really passionate. They let their emotions go on the field, like Catherine Silverbrunt, those sort of people. And I think it's just a shame that they're probably not got the depth that they have had in recent years. Um, so I think they've got very destructive players, and I think if they're probably going to be looking at carrying maybe 2 players in each of the games. They're going to be either youngsters or they're going to be players that have not performed up to now, or certainly not in the last 2 years. Yeah, I think they've got some absolute world class players, and like I say, I think one of the best players in the women's game in Marizanne Kapp. But much like New Zealand, I think they've got Amelia Kerr, who is again one of those who is an absolutely phenomenal player. But um, I think if a couple of their world class players don't fire, I don't think the rest of the team's going to have enough against the very best in
Yeah.
India and in Australia.
Yeah, no,
And then
absolutely.
there's people that Australia have left out that I think I'd love to have people like Amanda J. Wellington and stuff like that. I'd love to have them in our team. I think because they're so good with, like, they're deceptively good with the bat, and their bowling is just phenomenal. Um, but obviously they've got um, just like Alana King has come in and just been an absolute revelation, spinning
Mm,
them all. So she's keeping Amanda J. Wellington out. So yeah, I think South Africa, they've probably got a little bit more strength than New Zealand. I think they've got a little bit more strength than England. I just don't think they've got an 11 that will challenge unless they put in big performances. The world class players put in big performances, and I wouldn't put it past them because obviously we've seen in the past how Laura Wolfart has gone out of the traps and actually battered a team into submission before they've even picked up a bat. So
yeah,
Amanda
100%.
and Cat can do
Well,
the same down there.
yeah, there's the same with South Africa. They've gone close a lot of times recently, so you never know. Like a bit like India, they might hopefully this for them anyway. It'd be their first time getting over the line. So, all right, well, we've spoke about a few teams. So, let's go with our predictions for the semis. The top four and who's going to win it. So, my prediction is Australia to top the group, to top the table. India second, South Africa third, England to sneak in fourth place. And I think it'll be an Australia India final. And I think I've got a sneaky feeling India might do it, being the co-host. But yeah, if it's anything to go by that ODI you were saying the other day, Frochy, it could be fireworks. So yeah,
It
so I
could.
think yeah,
I would
it,
love to see them two in the final. I think that would be the best final. And hand on heart, I can't see anyone else being in the top two and having that seeding, playing against the third team, playing against the fourth team. I think their semi-finals should be a formality. We've always got hope. I think if we did were fourth, Australia were first. I can't really argue with your top four. I think Australia, then India. I think India are susceptible to having a poor game,
mm,
and I think that potentially just someone might beat them, and that will be enough to give Australia the number one spot. India second, South Africa third, and then England fourth. And then I think if England are playing Australia, the only way I can see us coming out on that is if someone has just an absolutely phenomenal game, and I'm thinking someone like Nat Silverbrun
yeah,
just puts on
as a worldie,
a
yeah,
hundred, yeah, just has an absolutely phenomenal game. We maybe restrict them to like 320 or something, and then she goes out and gets 150 and is
yeah, yeah.
supported. The other players around her get some good runs, and I think that's probably the only avenue. But I can't even then I can't see England beating Australia and then beating India in the semi final and the final. So I am going to give it to India based on the fact that it's just ever so possible that England might upset Australia in the semi final just as a massive upset.
Mm.
But I don't see them doing it twice. But I think India will definitely make the final, even in the number two seed spot, and either Australia or England in the final. And I hope it's Australia, to be honest, because I think that will be the better World Cup final. I think it'll be absolutely spectacular with India on home soil, but Australia with that phenomenal team, with, in my opinion, arguably the best women cricketer in Phoebe Litchfield.
100%. So yeah, it should be a really good tournament. I hope it lives up to the expectation we've given it over the last half hour or so. Well, thanks a lot for watching for joining, and we'll catch you on a video soon. So
Yep.
thanks everyone for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Let us know your World Cup predictions in the comments below. It'd be great to read those, and we'll see you soon. All the best. Take care.